The Doomsday Heist is arguably the most difficult heist in GTA Online. Between the private militia, entire SWAT units, and invisible robot juggernauts, this heist is seriously no joke. And as far as I can tell, no one has completed it using only the standard pistol, because no one would be dumb enough to try that, right? Well, as it turns out, my buddy Sparks and I are complete idiots. You are an idiot! And as we hadn't played the heist since it came out in 2017, we figured we'd give it a go. As you can imagine, things get ridiculously difficult, so kick back, relax, and watch the chaos unfold. To ensure we stuck to the challenge, we went to our weapon lockers and made sure we only had the standard pistol in our weapon wheel. For the first setup, we flew over to Mount Gordo, where we had to steal an ambulance. This was relatively straightforward, although Sparks somehow managed to get run over. And then just as we were about to deliver the ambulance to the facility, he got a sudden boost of confidence.
I reckon we can make it across this. No! No! I actually didn't mean...
I don't know what you were thinking.
No, I genuinely did not mean this. The fucking hill, it flung me.
How did the hill fling you? You drove over it.
Yeah, because I went too fast.
Look at it, you can just see it over there, just bobbing in the water.
No, no, that wasn't me.
Nevertheless, we started up the mission again, stole it for the second time, and delivered it back to the facility. Made it.
What do you mean few? How dare you? How dare you?
For the next mission, we split up into two teams where Sparks went to steal a helicopter and I had to collect some data from the morgue. I started off by sneaking around and searching some corpses which didn't have anything on them, so I had to head upstairs to the restricted area. As soon as I got upstairs, I started taking fire, but managed to take out the first few guards. Then just as I was about to start making my way across the floor, Sparks got outgunned. So we repeated the process, and this time I was able to start taking out the guards in the restricted area. I went over to the coroner's laptop and stole the data, but my character took so long to come out of the animation that I nearly died. After eating loads of snacks and taking out over a dozen officers, I eventually made it to the exit where Sparks was waiting for me in the helicopter. We then delivered it to the drop-off and completed the setup. For the next mission, we had to steal some deluxes from a mansion, and after getting there we realized there were around a dozen guards we had to take out. So we split up around the building and gradually took them all out. We then went into the garage to steal a deluxe of each, resprayed it at pay and spray, and took it back to the facility. As there were 4 deluxes to get, we went back to the mansion in Sparks' Avenger to pick up the remaining 2, but as we got close to it, he randomly decided to jump out, leaving me to scramble out of the plane, only to get instantly chopped up by the blades. And then after respawning, I saw him just peacefully glide towards the mansion. We then quickly repeated the process and finished the mission. Next up, we had to use the deluxes to drive close to some vans until we finished hacking them. After which, sadly, we were not able to use pistols, so we had to use the explosive to destroy them. What the fuck? We then repeated the process for some boats on the sea. What the fuck? And the final target vehicle was a jumbo plane, which took significantly longer to hack, and we were also getting shot at by some helicopters. Nevertheless, we managed to take out some of the choppers, complete the hack, and also blow up the plane. Then we landed on the roof of a car park to finish off the mission. Next up, we had to fly over to Fort Zancudo to find the location of an Akula. The mission allows you a bit of time before getting detected, so we went straight to the control tower. Whilst downloading the flight data, we were then detected and given an instant 4-star rating, which Sparks didn't seem too worried about.
I have snitched.
After nearly getting taken out in the tower, we went straight to the elevator and knew there were a bunch of guards waiting for us outside. We managed to take out one of them, but they got their revenge on Sparks. After he respawned, we took out a few more guards and quickly made our escape. We then flew over to the airport, took out a few more guards, stole the Akula, and delivered it back to the facility. If this is looking easy so far, just wait until you see some of the later missions. Now it was time to take on an entire news compound. We flew over to the site using the Akula's stealth mode and silently took out the guards around the perimeter until we eventually got the access codes to get inside. Once in the building, we continued with the stealthy approach and took out a bunch of guards. We then proceeded to complete all of the hacks, but towards the end we got spotted, so had to battle our way to the exit. We went section by section until we got to the main staircase, where we nearly died as there was very little cover. But we managed to keep our composure and make it outside. There were multiple helicopters and dozens of SWAT officers, so we took it slow by taking cover behind the wall. The guards were coming from every direction, but we gradually took out the ones behind us and the main group in the parking lot. We then made our way back to the roof and managed to take out a few helicopters before eventually making our escape and landing at Sandy Shores. Now it was time to finish the finale for Act 1 by coming to an IAA base which was under attack. There were a few guards waiting outside, but we quickly dispatched them and headed inside. This part was actually quite difficult because the enemies had some fairly decent weapons and there wasn't an awful lot of cover. So much so that when Sparks went to push up, he got taken out. After we restarted, we decided to be a bit more cautious and went for long range shots, but as we were using pistols, it took quite a long time to kill the enemies as they were literally sponging our bullets. After a lot of patience and taking out many more guards, we cleared the first floor. We then went downstairs and took out a bunch more guards. Finally, we made it to the bottom floor where there were over a dozen enemies, and this again took a long time to complete because we could only resort to taking long shots as there was very little cover. Eventually though, we cleared house and went to the war room where we had to jump on the gun turrets to take out waves of enemies. I have to admit, this was a welcome change to using a measly pistol, as these gun turrets were crazy overpowered, and after a few minutes of fun, we took out all the remaining enemies and finished Act 1. For the first mission of Act 2, we had to steal a riot van, so we flew over to a petrol station where the police were already engaged in a skirmish, so Sparks expedited the process. What the fuck? We then tried to take out the rest of the officers, but just as I stole the riot van, Sparks went down like a hero trying to protect me. Nevertheless, we regrouped and delivered it back to the facility. Next up, we had to steal an Avenger from an airport hangar, but this mission turned out to be especially tricky. As soon as we entered, the lights turned off, and although we had night vision, it was still tricky to tell where we were getting shot from, and the enemies had kitted out weapons, which led to Sparks dying straight away. After we respawned, we managed to make our way up the stairs and took out a few enemies, but these guys were seriously strong and took out Sparks yet again. On the next attempt, we decided to split up so I could draw their fire from the first floor while Sparks shot them from a different angle. After eating a lot of snacks and firing hundreds of pistol rounds, we eventually took everyone out so we could turn on the generators. But as luck would have it, as I tried to enter the Avenger, it glitched out and put me in the cargo hold, which I couldn't escape from, and Sparks was not able to fly without me at the actual checkpoint. So sadly, we had to restart the mission and do it all over again. This mission was really testing our patience because the enemies were eating our bullets for fun, but we eventually took them all out, and this time I decided to go to the back entrance just in case, which thankfully worked, and we delivered the Avenger to the drop-off. The next mission was relatively easy, as all we had to do was drive by a few targets, take out a few more in an apartment, and steal their duffel bag. But for some reason, as we were leaving, Sparks wanted to drive back without any tires. This actually worked surprisingly well. How is this working?
Don't question that. I told you it'd be better. It's like a speed boost.
Until we reached the hill to the facility. We then took out the guards that were chasing us and stole one of their rides. Some more enemies spawned, but they also struggled with the terrain, meaning we could make our escape back to the facility. The next mission was probably the most difficult one so far. We had to head to a factory to rescue a captured agent. Normally you're meant to do these missions with 4 players, but Sparks and I had to split up into 2 one-man teams. He had to go inside the factory and take out a bunch of enemies to escort the agent out of the building, and I had to provide cover from the outside to ensure the waves of enemies didn't get into the building. The first attempt didn't go too well, as I could hardly do any damage with the pistol from the designated vantage point, which led to Sparks getting overwhelmed. So on the next attempt, I decided to take cover from the back entrance so the enemies couldn't sneak up on Sparks from behind. I was able to take out a few enemies, but the helicopter took out most of my health, and then I got finished off by an approaching enemy. On the following go, Sparks tried to help me out, but he also fell victim to the lethal helicopter. On the next attempt, Sparks went back to taking out the enemies inside the building, whilst I took cover by the entrance so the helicopter couldn't shoot me, and I just kept taking pop shots at the enemies as they approached. This was the furthest we lasted so far, but these guards were seriously strong and took out Sparks yet again. By the 5th attempt, we knew roughly what we had to do, it was just a matter of concentrating and taking on one enemy at a time. Eventually, Sparks managed to rescue the agent, and we made a run towards one of the armoured vehicles just as 2 helicopters spawned in. We then had to drive all the way to Mackenzie Airfield with the helicopters continuously shooting us, but thanks to Sparks' great driving, we got to the airfield in one piece and delivered the agent. For the next mission, we had to drive over to a movie theatre and start a riot. We were forced to use our hands for this, which was a welcome change as we got to knock some people out.
Watch out, watch out, watch out! Oh!
Eventually the police arrived, we then had to steal their RCV and deliver it back to the facility. And for the following mission, we had to use it to put out multiple fires across various locations so we could recover some hard drives. The first site was easy as there were only 2 fires, and as I was not able to pick up the hard drives, I protected Sparks as he recovered them from the wreckages. The next site had 3 targets, and as each of them was on a timer, I had to prioritize putting the fires out first before protecting Sparks. But we quickly dealt with this site and moved on to the next. At this location there were 4 targets and very little cover, so I asked Sparks to stay in the vehicle until I had put the fires out. However, as I did that, even more enemies spawned on the roof and somehow took him out whilst he was in the RCV. We respawned back at the last site and had to drive all the way over there, meaning with each death our time to complete the mission was shrinking. So we quickly got to tackling the fires and taking out the enemies so we could move on to the final location. Once there were 5 fires to take out, so I quickly went to the one in the corner so Sparks could hop out and start shooting the enemies. However, just as I was taking out the last fire, things started to heat up and Sparks got outnumbered. Now time really was of the essence because we had to drive back over there and only had a few minutes to put out the fires. After a lot of concentrating and a little bit of panic, I eventually put out all the fires and then hopped out the RCV to help Sparks take out the remaining enemies. We then delivered the RCV to the drop-off to complete the mission. The next mission was really easy as all we had to do was steal a few trucks carrying Strombergs and deliver them to the facility. The following mission was also quite easy as all we had to do was head over to a barge, kill a few guards and steal some torpedo ECUs to deliver back to the facility, although Sparks did somehow manage to blow us up. What was that?
The engine cut out!
Next up, we had to use the Strombergs to destroy a military convoy, and then we split up into 2 teams to take out 10 sea mines each. After which, we searched various spots around the wreckage and then dropped off the Strombergs. Now it was time for the finale of Act 2. I had to use the Avenger to provide air support for Sparks whilst he used the Stromberg to sneak onto the enemy submarine. My job was surprisingly easy, as all I had to do was set the Avenger to autopilot and hop on the gun turrets to take out dozens of helicopters. After quite a while, Sparks eventually managed to complete his part of the mission, and I was told to go pick him up in the middle of the sea, despite him being on the beach. It was at this point we realized the game was glitched out, so we would have to restart the whole thing. This time around, I went to the submarine to see what the mission was all about. There were literally dozens of officers to take out, and to make things even more difficult, my aim would sway left and right as the submarine was moving. Nevertheless, I gradually made my way through every level of the submarine, although I did nearly die towards the end as I couldn't get an angle on one of the guards, so I decided to push up but then got shot in the back by one of his buddies. After quickly retreating, eating some snacks, and getting my revenge, I finally found a contact in the brig, and after interrogating him, I took out some more guards that spawned and then went to the control room. I then plugged Clifford into the console, and after the cutscene played, I met up with Sparks by the beach and we took out some helicopters as we made our way to the drop-off. The first mission of Act 3 was super easy, as all we had to do was steal a duffel bag from a metro station and deliver it back to the facility. The next one was also simple, as we just had to take some photos of a shipyard to send to Leicester. Next up, we had to rescue Agent 14 from that same shipyard. There were literally dozens of guards, and some of them were quite strong, so they took quite a while to kill. However, after a lot of patience and good aim, we eventually took them all out and regrouped with Agent 14, after which 3 invisible robot juggernauts spawned, and as soon as I popped the corner they nearly killed me. So I quickly retreated and realized we would have to take this slow. I equipped the thermal vision and they soon started to lock onto Sparks, so I was able to take pop shots at their head before they swivel around to start shooting me. After what felt like an eternity, I eventually took out the one in the middle, then the one on the right, and then I pushed up to take out the one on the left. Just when I thought this was over, 4 more spawned on the opposite side of the shipyard, and my character went to take cover in the wrong position, leading to my demise. We then had to start all the way from the beginning, which was a long and tedious task, but eventually got back to the point where the 4 juggernauts spawned, and this time it was Sparks' turn to take them out whilst they were focused on me. After quite a while, he managed to take them out, then multiple helicopters spawned, dropping in loads of Avon's goons, but we quickly dealt with those and now had to clear Agent 14's path to the extraction point. There were literally dozens of guards to take out, and we couldn't be too aggressive as the patrolling helicopter dealt serious damage, but with some very precise shooting, I finally managed to take it out, meaning we could push up further. As we reached the next building, even more juggernauts spawned, so we split up where Sparks would focus on them and I would take out the surrounding guards. Eventually we managed to push through to the extraction point, but even more juggernauts spawned and they nearly took me out, but luckily I managed to take cover by a crate just in time. As they were focused on me, Sparks went round to finish them off, and then we could finally deliver Agent 14 to the drop-off. Next up, we had to go to a Merryweather camp to steal a Chernobog. There were quite a few enemies and they were also armoured and had strong weapons, so they took a little while to finish off, but eventually we cleared them out, stole the Chernobog and delivered it back to the facility. For the next mission, we had to go to a construction site and take out over 30 of Avon's goons. Whilst these guys weren't armoured, as there were so many of them, on a few occasions they nearly took us out, but we persevered and eventually took the Chernobog. I then drove over to a landing site where Sparks had to use the missiles on the Chernobog to protect Agent ULP. This took quite a while to complete, as we had to keep following the agent whilst he was flying very slowly. I also had to stop every time Sparks wanted to use the missiles, as you're not able to use them on the go. After a lot of patience and a lot of stopping and starting, we eventually escorted Agent ULP to his landing site. The next setup was super simple, as we just had to take out a target, steal his briefcase and take it back to the facility. The following mission was a lot more difficult because we had to go to the observatory to ambush an aerial convoy and take out a cargo bob that was carrying a barrage. We genuinely tried to use pistols to take out the cargo bob, but the helicopters were seriously strong and instantly deleted Sparks. On the next attempt, we tried taking cover by the observatory walls, and despite being surrounded by the helicopters, we eventually managed to take out all the shooters, but we failed the mission because the cargo bob arrived at its destination. On the following attempt, we decided to split up, where I would draw some of the helicopters to me and Sparks would focus on taking out the cargo bob, but he was barely able to do any damage to it, so we accepted defeat and restarted the mission and used the explosive sniper to take it out. Now it was time to steal the barrage and head over to Sandy Shores to dismantle the enemy operations. There was a plane trying to take off, so Sparks used a sniper to take it out, but then he thought we could actually manage it with just a pistol, so we restarted and managed to drive by the pilot. We then got pursued by a helicopter, but after taking out the shooters and putting many rounds into it, we eventually blew it up. We then pushed up towards the hangar, but Sparks got instantly deleted by the patrolling guards, so we had to restart all the way back by the observatory. We repeated the process, and this time Sparks tried to take cover by the barrage, but apparently I pushed him as I was getting out, which led to his death. After driving back over there yet again and taking out the helicopter, we decided to split up and take it slow. I worked my way around the watchtower side of the airfield while Sparks went around the hangar. There were loads of guards to take out, but with some great aim we got lots of headshots and cleared everyone out. We then emptied numerous mags into the plane to eventually blow it up and delivered the barrage to the drop-off. The next setup was easy as we just had to take out a few guards, steal a laptop from a lockbox and take it back to the facility. The following mission however proved to be quite difficult. We had to go to a scrapyard and destroy a bunch of Avon's equipment which was heavily guarded. We managed to take out a few of them, but I got quickly deleted as I wasn't in cover. On the next attempt we started by taking out the guards in the storage unit and we realized it was impossible to destroy the equipment with just our pistols, so we're forced to use the explosives that were given to us. We then pushed up towards the scrapyard, but Sparks got quickly outnumbered. On the next go we managed to push up further, but Sparks got taken out around the corner. For some reason after respawning he decided to go back into the same spot and he got taken out yet again. On the next go he tried to watch my back, but then he got shot in the back. We then managed to actually make decent progress, but as Sparks tried to loop around the scrapyard he got instantly one-shot. By this point we were getting quite frustrated, but Sparks eventually got his flank to work and we were able to steal a Kanjali. We were unable to use pistols whilst inside the tank, and even though we were getting chased by endless waves of helicopters and cars, our route back to the drop-off was relatively uneventful except for Sparks accidentally wrapping it around a pole.
Oh my god!
Oh! Trick shot! Trick shot!
That's so close. You nearly hit it. Nevertheless, we arrived at the drop-off and were ready to start the next mission. For this, we had to take out a jet that was patrolling Los Santos. We initially tried to see how much damage we could do with just a pistol, but quickly realized this did basically nothing. So Sparks called his Sparrow and was confident he could get the job done.
I just need to get above it. I got it!
I then wasted a bunch of time diving to the sea floor to try to find the wreckage, only for it to randomly spawn at the docks once Sparks arrived. And then as we delivered the module to the facility, I randomly glitched under the map. I was really surprised at just how glitchy this heist had been so far. But we swiftly moved on to the next mission where we had to use a stealth bomber to take out the SAM turrets on Mount Chiliad. This mission required some aerial finesse, and despite the mishaps of the last mission, Sparks was keen to fly, although we didn't get off to the greatest of starts.
I believe I can fly.
Oh my.
I believe I can touch the sky. Think about, yeah, I'm still alive. Don't ever question my flying again.
However, we eventually managed to take out all the SAM turrets and delivered the plane back to the airfield. Now it was finally time to take on the finale for the entire heist. We used the barrage to drive through the tunnel and into the heart of Mount Chiliad. As we weren't allowed to use the gun turret, I tried to drive as quickly as possible and swerved to avoid all the oncoming vehicles. However, as I was so focused on driving quickly, I didn't realize that we had come to the end of the tunnel and I crashed the vehicle where 4 juggernauts were ready to instantly take us out. Thankfully, we respawned inside the tunnel so could then see what the exact setup was. There were 4 juggernauts around the corner and very little cover. I tried to take cover by the yellow barriers but got quickly pinned down as one of the juggernauts pushed up. After respawning, I thought I was safe in the corner but got quickly proven wrong. On the next attempt, it was Sparks who got pinned down by the yellow barrier. On the next go, we basically just hugged the boulder and head glitched over it to take out the juggernauts as they pushed up. And after quite a while, we eventually took them all out, but as we pushed on with the next part of the mission, I got instantly taken out by one of the guards. We then had to take out the juggernauts all over again. By this point, Sparks and I were beginning to lose the plot, especially as after we respawned, one of the juggernauts basically spawn trapped us.
Oh my god! What the hell?
Bro didn't care. Bro did not care that time around. He did not. He's had enough. He's had enough. He's gonna kill them all. He went revenge.
After a very long time, we eventually took out the juggernauts and started making progress through the tunnels. However, as we went deeper into the tunnels, Sparks got pinned down by yet another juggernaut, and after respawning, he got spawn trapped yet again. Nevertheless, we repeated the process, and this time we held back just before pushing into the tunnels, and Sparks took out the juggernauts whilst they were shooting me. We then pushed forward and had to use sticky bombs to destroy the supplies. We were making really good progress until Sparks pushed up a bit too much and paid the price. And as you probably guessed it, we had to start all the way back in the beginning. We eventually managed to push through again, but I got pinned down by some juggernauts, so Sparks went to flank them and took them out whilst they were focused on me. We then finally made it to the bunker doors, which triggered a cutscene, meaning we had reached a checkpoint. We now had to push through to the second floor where there were endless waves of Avon's goons. There were 4 servers around the floor and we had to hack each one. I volunteered to complete the hack while Sparks took out the goons. As I hadn't done this since 2017, I was a bit rusty but managed to complete the first 3 quite easily. However, the 4th one completely stumped me and I took so long to complete it, Sparks ran out of snacks and got taken out, but full credit to him as he got over 200 kills using only the pistol. Spark said he wanted to have a go at doing the hacks himself, but after respawning he got taken out yet again. Nevertheless, after restarting we pushed through and I protected Sparks whilst he completed the hacks. He eventually managed to complete all 4, then we cleared out the rest of the goons and went to the top floor to use the orbital cannons to destroy the mobile data centers. After that we continued to take out dozens of guards until we reached the silo, where it was finally time to take out Avon, who had been the source of so much misery for us. We equipped the jetpacks, took out multiple helicopters and finally took out Avon himself. We then happily delivered the jetpacks to the observatory and could finally rest knowing our pain was over. I seriously cannot stress just how painful this challenge was, and if you guys have stuck around until the end, I truly appreciate every single one of you. Please consider dropping a like and commenting the word pain so I know you watched the full video. As always, thank you so much for watching and I'll catch you guys soon.